Well, this was a first. I was actually requested by someone to make a video on them. I noticed the guy in question, oh yeah, Cory, was a cartoon reviewer, and while I have discussed those kinds of creators in my cartoon community video, I've never decided to look in depth on a particular one. He said he was down for criticism, and actively asking for it is something I can get down with, so ask and you shall receive. Do not start requesting me left and right to review your channels. I might do more of these in the future on special occasions, but not often. Anyhow, let's take a look at a guy somewhat apparently compared to Rebel Taxi, oh yeah, Cory. The best place to start would be his similarity to Rebel Taxi. When you hear someone's content reminds them of Rebel Taxi, I'd assume you'd believe it meant they had videos on a similar level of quality to Rebel Taxi, but as you can guess by how this sentence is going, that's not quite the case here. Wait, did I write that in the script? After thoroughly viewing every kind of video he makes now, I think I've stumbled onto a wannabe Rebel Taxi. Now when I say that, I don't mean wanting to be like Rebel Taxi is a bad model to strive for at all. Look at my cartoon community video for my thoughts on him. The thing is, Cory goes to a level somewhat above inspiration. It's more like, plagiarism? The irate gamer to his James Rolfe, if you will. This isn't a criticism about Storytime animators or anything where they seem similar yet are quite different. He steals concepts from Rebel Taxi. He uses the same moving background for his videos. He stops in the middle of longer reviews to show old commercials and fan art, and his end card is literally the exact same as Rebel Taxi's. And those are just the most blatant examples. You thought I was done? He has other little subtleties, like having the same font and placement of text for a song when it starts playing. In his top 10s, he has the same subtle sound effect when the number pops up. He is doing better than before, though, when he used a similar pose to Rebel Taxi's talking animation at certain points in the video. He even uses the same format of putting a drawing of the character next to each other as a backdrop for his podcast, like the Pizza Party podcast, where they get different guests on and they have different little sprites. Speaking on that, I'd like to talk about his art. I know this might sound a little bit harsh, but he has what I won't say is a terrible art style, but unpolished and rushed looking. He seems to be upgrading his character design, but the lines and shading still look wobbly and in general undefined. When I first saw his drawing of Ellis Mark, who he had on his podcast, I thought it looked decent. Then I decided to take a second look. I defogged my glasses to see something wasn't right. Those lines, that face, those legs. Yeah, this is traced. I even found the exact pose he ripped it from. The thing about Mark's sprites is they don't have any lower legs, so Cory had to make them up on his own, and that's why they look so really weird and eerie. Here's a thought, Cory. Instead of tracing a person you have on's own poses, why not make your own in your style? This tracing to me shows you don't have a great grasp of your style and weren't comfortable trying to draw someone else in it, or you were lazy and just didn't want to take the time to make an original piece. Either way, it's not good. I think you should either work on your art style to where you can draw others in that style and maybe get more detailed, or get an artist if you don't feel like improving that style. Now, looking at his content, he mostly makes top 10s and reviews like Rebel Taxi, along with cartoon news videos. The thumbnails for these videos have a specific theme I can see him trying to go for. He has a checkered border with a line going through the middle. An immediate problem, though, that I see with his thumbnails is too much is going on. Color-wise, too many images with too many contrasting colors are put in to the point of clashing and being unappealing to the eye. He gives a white outline to some characters in the thumbnails, but not to others, giving an inconsistency. He doesn't use the space in his thumbnails correctly either, adding unnecessary text and such. Having text reading your entire video title can be done correctly, but space needs to be given for the text to stand out and be able to be readable. He just kind of places it regardless of if something is there or not. With his specific type of thumbnail, I'd suggest maybe not having text at all, and if he did, put an abbreviation for the title to not jumble up the entire space. Also, don't put the name of the show or whatever you're talking about when you put the logo already in the title. It just looks like it's adding more and more words to it that are unnecessary. Look at a few of my thumbnails, for example. I use simple colors for backgrounds most of the time, I give space so the characters don't seem jammed in the thumbnail, and the small amount of text I have is in the background to not take away from the characters in the front, but it's still easily readable and eye-catching, and even if it isn't completely readable, you can tell what it means by the title.
Sometimes you gotta catch the cool kids' eyes with your hipster clothing. Oh, look at me, I've got my John Lennon sunglasses and long hair. Don't the ladies just love it?
With your color scheme and pattern in the background, I suggest keeping the characters within the middle line to make it look like the characters aren't trying to crawl out of the screen, and put less characters on screen so that it seems a bit more simplistic. Moving on to his content, while his editing is usually very good and consistent, I find his cartoon news videos the worst. Using his Sonic movie news video as an example, he shows a list of names for possible casting choices, and instead of maybe giving his thoughts on why he believed one would be the best over others, he just sort of goes down the list and occasionally makes a joke. The way he went about it, he probably would have just been better off showing the image and moving on. Other than that, he only talks briefly about the leaked Chris Pratt poster and teaser image. It comes off like the entire video is padding, better editing than Veilskabum, but not much more informative. I'm not saying telling jokes in a news video is inherently bad whatsoever. You can have some fun with it, but when you have a 5-minute video and 2.5 minutes of that is comedy, it feels like you just didn't have that much room for a subject and you wanted to fill up a 5-minute quota, so you just filled it with a bunch of comedy rather than finding more stuff to talk about. And you really didn't. You just had a casting list and a few posters to go off, so if you don't have that much room and you don't have that much to talk about, then just wait for more info to come out first. His rainbow butterfly unicorn kitty video is decent, but his half joke of repeatedly saying the entire name of the show becomes less funny with each repeat since he doesn't change the name at all. I mean, what other reason would he have to say Haribo Nutter Butter Unicycle Choreographer? I wouldn't want to just keep saying Danebo Aces High Hitler Did Nothing Wrong in the same way every time. It'd get annoying. Last example I'll give is his Carmen Sandiego video, in which he talks about the original show and goes on to commentate over the commercial for the new series, doesn't assume what below surface level characteristics the show could have, and doesn't look deeper into the show beyond the trailer or do any research. If you want to make cartoon news videos and stand out among the regulars who do that for their main content, it'd be wise to look deeper into the subject, and maybe give a new insight not before heard. Generally, his news videos seem somewhat out of place from his other content, and not as informative as you'd think they would be, more just padded. His other video types, at least those on the shorter time, aren't much better in terms of overall quality. His top 10 videos are fine, decently edited and all. Cory just lacks much explanation, such as in his top 5 underrated cartoon theme songs video. He talks about, wow, these lyrics guys, they're so good, oh my fucking god, moving on to number 4, but he just doesn't show why the lyrics are good. A bit more explanation can go a long way sometimes, Cory. His final most prominent type of content are his cartoon review series. Throughout multiple reviews, I saw he could have unnatural pauses and many grammatical errors at times. I know what it sounds like when you're making things up off your head, and Cory has sounded like that on multiple occasions. These kinds of mistakes can be fixed either while editing or by simply recording multiple takes. The videos themselves feel undercooked because he will mention on multiple occasions how much he likes a character or show, but then will not go on to elaborate specific characteristics about why, or at least not much in detail. If you like a character for whatever reason, say why. If you think a character is bad, say why. Don't just say, I like this and not that. Explain yourself. Something I noticed in his shorter reviews was he was more keen to not talk about aspects such as the villains of the story more in depth if there was a depth to look for, whether a show is consistent in pacing or quality, character development or lack of that throughout the series, etc., etc. Some of these issues are made up for in the longer reviews, which make me wonder why he doesn't specifically do longer reviews, because they have more time to talk about the ins and outs of a show like you should try to do in a review of a TV show. If you want to stick to shorter reviews, that's your choice, but if you want to go above and beyond, stick to longer reviews because they're clearly your strong suit. Last thing I want to talk about is Cory's personality. From his videos I get he's a guy who likes to make a lot of jokes, and that's about it. He doesn't have any negative qualities about his personality, but he has just about as many good qualities. Personalities are what help distinguish someone from another creator. The less personality you have, the less noticeable you are. Even adding a bit to your persona can go a long way. Honestly, I could say that mostly for your entire channel. What you really need to be asking yourself whenever you're making a video is, what makes me different from another person? Your opinions, what you have to say, your editing. You have good editing, I would like to say that, but you also are just sort of trying to copy Rebel Taxi, and while he is a good personality, you need to find your own identity and your own personality to make your videos better and more stand out. I'm constantly making edits to my script because I feel like it's not original enough and I don't have enough personality in, and I also have just gotten Sony Vegas so that I can improve my editing, which I personally think is subpar. You always need to be trying to improve yourself, and from the past year I haven't really seen much improvement from you. It seems all the same. That's all I have to say. Despite it mostly being negative, I would really like to see Cory improve, and by the fact that he left a comment on my video asking me to review him, I feel like he wants to improve himself too. If you're watching this, Cory, hey, what's up, man? Alright, I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.